like for
Good evening, y'all. This is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. And I am coming at you live from Tunnel Hills here in Hardin County, where I'm running for Magistrate District 3, Hardin County. And boy, what a week it started off to be already. We know we have kicked the war back into gear, it seems like. We've gone and sent in a raiding party to take over an Iranian flagged tanker right as we're sending J.D. Vance in to resume talks with Iran. I'm not sure if we just think he's a joke or what. But again, y'all, I am Spencer Keck. This is the Hillbilly Think Tank. And I'm the educated hillbilly. No, it's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated hillbillies in Kentucky ever since my family came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone many, many moons ago. But y'all, you know, here in central Kentucky, we are dedicated to the life of happiness, freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness being a big part of it. And we've got someone here to talk tonight about her pursuit of happiness and how she sees fit to do it, and thinks that there's some folks in our society that are a little bit furry that might need us to help them out as we're pursuing happiness. So I'll let you introduce yourself, if you would, before we continue.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me. This is super exciting. It's the first experience for me for anything like this. So I'm Machine Gun Jenny, but you can just call me Jenny. And I am trying to use art to save animals. Taking one passion to save another. So
Awesome. And what's one of the cheap ways you use art to save animals?
all my art's cheap.
Awesome.
I don't have any choice. It's called a starving artist for a reason, you know?
That's right. That's
We
right.
just kind of improvise until we have anything else we can do.
Well, definitely going to give you some time to talk about that, because I've got 4 rescue pups of different sizes and shapes here that improve my life every single day. So, yeah.
They do that. They do that.
But if you haven't heard, the Supreme Court will hear the religious liberty case on Catholic preschools and LGBTQ families. Have you heard about that?
I actually have not. I've stuck my head in the sand every now and then just for survival.
Yeah,
If
we've
my
got to do
dogs
that once in a
bark,
while.
my apologies, but you know,
Well, mine are going to too, I'm sure, as we're going along.
I'm sure they will, because my neighbors are out there. So
as the Supreme Court maintains a 6-3 conservative majority that frequently backs religious rights claims, Trump administration filed a brief supporting the Archdiocese, but at the same time, the Trump administration has canceled $11 million contract for Catholic Charities in Miami, calling the charity woke and supportive of DEI for undocumented children. Irony much in the 45 and 47 administration? Now, y'all, we know that the separation of church and state is enshrined in our Constitution. The Establishment Clause, that is the First Amendment, says this: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Now, this has been seen and known forever to forbid the government from creating an official state church or preferring one religion over another. The full First Amendment says this: Congress shall make no law respecting an established religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, in 1802, Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter in which he declared that when the American people adopted the Establishment Clause, they built a, quote, wall of separation between the church and the state, unquote. Now, some try to argue that Jefferson didn't really mean he wanted to take religion out of government. Well, let's see about that. There's definitely plenty of evidence for what he meant, and did he mean what he said?
Sponsored by Ground News. Imagine this: an elderly Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States and author of the Declaration of Independence, is sitting at his desk at home in Monticello. In front of him are 6 copies of the Bible in 4 different languages, but he's not exactly studying them. In fact, he's not really reading them either. In his hand, he holds a razor blade, and he's slicing passages out of the Bibles and rearranging them into a text called The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth.
Now, were you aware that he spoke 4 different languages?
I think I actually have heard that.
Yeah. So he's got the Greek, the Latin Vulgate, of course, this would be the ancient Greek also, and I think the French and English versions. There were still some years to come before we would get Dead Sea Scrolls and get even deeper into the original language that they were written in. But at least he was making a darn good attempt. Have you heard this story before about the Jefferson Bible? Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. And again, it just gives more light into why he really would believe in a separation of church and state.
More commonly known as the Jefferson Bible, not because he wrote it, because he crafted it. The text was published in 1895, almost 70 years after his death. It was Jefferson's personal selection of passages from the Gospels, but he pasted together only the passages in which Jesus taught. No miracles, no resurrection, no acknowledgement of being divine. The Sermon on the Mount? Keep it. Walking on water and healing the sick? Remove it. As he explained to his friend and political foe, John Adams, he felt compelled to extract Jesus' earthly teachings from the rest of the Gospels, because later writers corrupted his original teachings. What remains is the most sublime and benevolent code of morals which has ever been offered to man. I have performed this operation for my own use, by cutting verse by verse out of the printed books and arranging the matter which is evidently his, and which is as easily distinguishable as diamonds in a dunghill.
So again, that was Thomas Jefferson, 1813. Only a year after he wrote that, about the separation of church and state being so important. Now, I find this interesting, and I wish I'd had my cousin on here who is actually a PhD scholar and teacher at Boston College. He studied actually the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there's, some of the original scrolls, like to get as close to the original source language as we can find. And when he was working on his PhD, I actually got to take a ride with him from Chicago to, I can't remember if we came back to Kentucky or where we were going, but he had in his car another scholar, and she is on this group of biblical scholars. Many of them are secular, have no religious affiliation. Matter of fact, they think that dilutes their work, and then some others were, actual theologians, but they're more interested in the historical accuracy of the original text and trying to ferret out, hey, what did Jesus actually say, and what are some things that they just said he said later, but they added to. So I can remember that they had the Jesus. Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. Yeah. So they meet every so often to go over and to critique, text and decide what they think he said and didn't say for real. And a lot of the stuff that's, written in red, they've gone back and said, nah, he probably really didn't say that, or yes, he did say that. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, I went to a church back when I used to go to church. I'm not big on organized religion anymore for reasons that we're talking about right now. But I did go to a church when I lived in Texas, and it was probably one of the most interesting pastors I've ever seen. He taught more than he preached, and he would do that. He would say, if this word was interpreted this way, this is what this passage would mean. But if it was, this way, it could mean something completely different. So that's what makes it so confusing for me,
And I bring this up because, ever since preacher Whiskey Pete Keg's Breath decided that he's going to preach Ezekiel, 25:17, which it turns out was just
Pulp Fiction.
Made up. Yeah, Pulp Fiction, exactly. And I actually have read the Bible from cover to cover because I grew up in a very religious family. And then I went to school in Belmont University in the 90s, and they still required everyone to take an Old Testament history course and a New Testament history course. And that's when I really learned all about the original sources, and that's a real scholarly talk. So I think there's where I really came to understand this need for the separation between church and state. So, So, all right, let's listen a little more.
Considering that he just compared much of the canonical Gospels to a dunghill, you might not be surprised to hear that Jefferson's religious beliefs stirred up a lot of controversy in his day. In fact, they nearly cost him the presidency, as Jefferson's political enemies tried to smear him as an atheist. But was that true? If Jefferson felt compelled and qualified to chop up and improve the Bible and disavow Jesus as the Son of God, what did he believe? A quick glance at his bio, and you'd assume that Jefferson was an otherwise devout member of the Anglican Church, which at the time was the established church of Jefferson's home colony of Virginia. It later became the Episcopal Church after the American Revolution. Jefferson was born into an Anglican family in 1743. He attended the College of William and Mary, an Anglican college. He baptized his kids in the Anglican Church. He contributed financially to the Anglican parish where Monticello was located, and he attended church often, even as president. But although he was outwardly an Anglican and later an Episcopalian, he also acknowledged significant differences between his personal religiosity and the orthodox teachings of the church. In 1816, he claimed, "I am a real Christian," that is to say, a disciple of the doctrines of Jesus. Elsewhere, he declared, "I am of a sect by myself as far as I know." In fact, according to the historian of American religion, John Fea, Jefferson was probably the most skeptical of all of the founders, and his beliefs did not align with Christian orthodoxy as it's generally defined by most Christians throughout history. So if Jefferson was out of step with the doctrines of the Anglican Church, what did he believe? First of all, Jefferson believed in a God. So no, he was not an atheist. He believed that an intelligent designer created the universe. He states this plainly in a letter to John Adams, saying, "When we take a view of the universe, it is impossible for the human mind not to perceive and feel a conviction of design in every atom of its composition." In the same letter, he explicitly declared to adore the creator and benevolent governor of the world. But this does not mean he believed in God as many Christians understand God today. For example, Jefferson explicitly rejected the core Christian doctrine of the Trinity, that God exists in three persons, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. He declared the Trinity to be incomprehensible jargon and metaphysical insanity. In this respect, some historians have categorized him as a Unitarian, though he was not a formal member of a Unitarian church. Nevertheless, he did speak highly of Unitarianism and even predicted it would become the general religion of the United States. Many historians also describe his views about God as deistic, a deist being someone who believes in an intelligent designer of the universe, but a universe governed by natural laws. The creator does not interfere with these laws once they are established. Now, some historians who take a very strict definition of deism as the belief that God never intervenes in history instead label him things like a theistic rationalist, pointing to evidence that suggests that Jefferson believed in a God that did engage with the universe on a more intimate level. For example, in one letter, Jefferson says that we are not in a world ungoverned by the laws and power of a superior agent. Our efforts are in his hand and directed by it. This and other quotes lead some historians to say that Jefferson believed in a God that actively sustained the universe, even if that God is somewhat aloof. Monticello's own website tries to have it both ways by saying that he was not strictly a deist, but he was deistic. On the other hand, many historians who take a looser definition of deism and view it more on a spectrum comfortably label him as a deist. Although Jefferson never referred to himself as a deist, his views do fall more on the deistic side of the spectrum insofar as he rejected miracles and was a materialist, who believed that the universe was governed by natural laws instituted by God. In one of his letters, he writes, "To talk of immaterial existence is to talk of nothings." And in the Declaration of Independence itself, Jefferson says independence from England is justified by the laws of nature and of nature's God, which was a common phrase used by deists at the time. But there is some ambiguity. People are complicated, and views change over time. So even though he at times appears to be a staunch materialist, leaving no room for the supernatural, he at other times seems to express a belief in the afterlife, and hoped for a future when he'd reunite with lost friends and family. A year before both he and Adams died, he wrote, "But all this you and I shall know, when we meet again in another place at no distant period." Although this might just be Jefferson trying to comfort his friend, some historians see it as a sincere expression of belief in an afterlife. So without getting mired too deeply in definitions, whether we characterize his views as deistic or theistic rationalist, his view of God was a far cry from both atheism and Orthodox Christianity. He was a skeptic who believed in a God who created the universe and cared about morality, but a God who largely kept out of human affairs. Jefferson also rejected the Christian idea that the Bible is the inspired word of God. In fact, he showed active contempt for the people who transmitted the words and teachings of Jesus. This included the gospel writers and the apostle Paul himself. He referred to these people as biographers of Jesus, who put words in Jesus' mouth. And while Jefferson admired some of these sayings, he said he found in many passages so much ignorance, so much absurdity, so much untruth, charlatanism, and imposture as to pronounce it impossible that such contradictions should have proceeded from the same being. He goes on to call the disciples of Jesus a band of dupes and imposters, and calls the Apostle Paul the first corrupter of the doctrines of Jesus. Jefferson was also...
So, I'm pretty sure that we would not elect anyone today that talk like that or use rational thought like that. So, what do you think?
I don't know. It's really fascinating. Everything he said, it reflects how I believe. People, it's really weird. I call it God because I don't know what else to call it. I believe that there is something out there. I wouldn't be here if there wasn't. I see evidence that there is a higher power out there every time I turn around. But I have questions, you know, and I really love he put in words what I've tried to tell people for so long, and I've never heard it broken down like that. I had no idea those things about him, and that's super cool because I believe that people have put their own spin on the Bible.
Well, and we've got a president that loves to put his spin on the Bible.
He likes to put his
But
spin on everything.
he can't quote you a verse, though. So, ever since the 1970s, whenever president is a Democrat and they call themselves a Christian, well, they're attacked as being the Antichrist. This has been a
Yeah.
big part of, the other side creating culture wars. So, but I would like to say, but now that we have seen some of the hypocrisy that's going on lately, just
Yeah.
right in our face. Really, who's the imposter? Or who's worse?
I
Let's.
I can
What do you
tell
think?
you I can tell you firsthand, as far as hypocrisy, and I can always tell when, well, as a server in the South, and a female, and I don't dress like this to go to work, but I'm, I've got a couple piercings. I don't really keep them in much, but you can tell they're there. And on any given day, I'll have pink hair or whatever. And the ugliness that comes at me just for being there by people who probably have something about being a Christian in their Facebook bio, Um, I'm just not surprised anymore of the hypocrisy. It's just,
Well, the Sermon on the Mount, like you said, that to me is most important things. I hold that even higher importance than forcing the Ten Commandments down kids' throats. Since I don't know of any kid in my 7th grade classroom that is coveting their neighbor's wife, so I don't really think it's time for you to teach them that.
Neighbor's bike.
Yeah, if that. But we know that Pete Hegg says fake Bible verse came from the Trump Bible, and let's get a little example of that.
Faith is not a prop. My faith is not a prop. Oh, you mean like this?
Vice President Biden, he's against God, against religion, Bible.
The Bible means a lot to me. The Bible, it is the book. It is the thing.
What's my first favorite book? The Bible.
I believe in the Bible.
I brought my Bible.
I brought my Bible. I brought my Bible. Say Bible.
One or two of your most favorite Bible verses are, and why?
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. When I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into specifics. The Bible means a lot to me. And when you're starved, you can do anything. Grab them by the...
Never forget, Trump couldn't name one Bible verse. And that's after years of being asked about it. You think his brain could hold 20 words just for a reflexive response when they ask you, what's your favorite verse? You think you would have one ready to go? Trump, I know you had one ready to go when they asked you where you was at last night. I know you. Then again, maybe he didn't. That's why you're on his third. He didn't learn with Ivana or Marla Maples. He didn't learn where you was at last night. That's why he on his third. Okay, now I get it. And that also makes sense of why you couldn't get your explanations together.
And did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor.
Gee, I don't know. How did they come up with that?
Oh, it hurts. It's physically painful.
Making people better, and I do make people better. I make people.
He makes them better. Glory.
Better. As an example,
Hallelujah.
The 11,000. I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir.
He's going through some very serious cancer treatment. So
yes,
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for the first time ever to the Daily Telegraph. This is the picture Donald Trump is referring to. But remember, Dick Littlejohn in the Daily Mail thinks the country should be led by this guy instead of Keir Starmer. But it's not the Daily Mail today. It's the Daily Telegraph to which we turn. This is the picture in which Donald Trump thinks, A, that he looks like a doctor, and B, that anybody who thinks that he looks like Jesus is lying because they belong to the fake news and they're trying to make him look bad. Unfortunately, nobody asked him why he then subsequently removed this picture. So he's looking at this picture and telling you that anyone claiming that he is being depicted as Jesus is a liar. That's what he's doing. He is looking at you and pointing at this picture and saying, if you believe anybody who tells you that I am Jesus in this picture, then they are mad. That is the action of an abusive partner. That is gaslighting. That is, telling somebody that you are abusing, that it's all in their mind and they must be going mad. Of course, I'm not cheating on you, but that is absolutely the behavior of an abusive partner. What you can see with your own eyes is not, so it's not funny, is it?
And what is it that kind of partner would do in this situation where they gave you the nonsensical explanation is double down and attack you for not going along with it, would they not? Ain't that right, Riley Gaines? Earlier Monday, conservative.
So, you know who Riley Gaines is, right?
I actually don't. Sorry.
So she's the gal from, I think it was UK, who she was on all the ads. Remember, she is on them right now too, for the Guardians of the Pedophile running here. She tied for 5th place at a swim meet And the person she tied for 5th place with was given the 5th place medal, and she was told, hey, your 5th place medal will be mailed to you, but you can go and stand up on the podium too. Now, the person that came with like a half of a second or even less ahead of her, in this 5th place tie, is transgender. Remember when she made it the story? She acted like he stole my medal, never fucking mentioning it was a goddamn 5th place fucking medal.
Yeah,
Not
like
fucking
something to really
crybabies.
about.
When you want to talk about crybabies, and we always talk about, oh, they just want their participation trophy. You know what? That was a freaking participation trophy. If you're talking about crying about tying for 5th place. And yet she's made that her whole campaign, her whole political campaign, is how this one, she made it sound like she got robbed from first. She never mentions that it's 5th, unless you, dig down into it, whenever she's on these things.
Yeah.
It wasn't 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th, or even 4th place. Yeah. So I didn't even know you got a medal at college. When you're doing
but I didn't
that
know,
far back.
I didn't know you could. I didn't know Trump could try to get a Nobel Peace Prize for nothing either.
Right. True. I'm sure he would want her to share her 5th place with him.
Activist Riley Gaines said she couldn't understand why Trump posted the image asking, does he actually like this? She added that a little humility would serve him well and that God shall not be mocked. When asked if he took the post down because of Gaines and other criticism, President Trump said, no, I didn't listen to Riley Gaines. I'm not a big fan of Riley, actually.
So,
shocker.
She served her place, has been a good foil for all their ads. But now they don't need that prop anymore.
Right. Didn't they do something like that to Nicki Minaj too?
Oh, she walked into that and asked for it. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but we were. Yeah. I was so happy when she got it though.
All right, but again, like I say, you talk about someone with intellect, like Jefferson. Would he be able to be honest? Because I don't know if this is true, but I've heard. I need to go back and do some more research. I read once, I should say, that the Bible that people have been swearing in on is actually the Jefferson Bible. And if so, that's the one where he caught almost everything out of it, except for, things that he didn't think were dogmatic. What he thought was the true sayings of Christ. I like to compare that to what the, Jesus scholars, the Jesus Committee have come up with. Yeah. Well, let's look at it. I just love looking at hypocrisy and laughing.
Yeah, there's plenty to laugh about in this administration.
Well, I just feel that we spend so much money in these campaigns of hatred, that we really lose the real opportunity to really help people. All the money we spent on that could have been better spent helping people. But let's just look a little more hypocrisy, though, while we're at it.
Barack Hussein Obama is the Antichrist. A woman? Of course she's the Antichrist. A Catholic? Antichrist for sure. This woman is definitely, absolutely, without a doubt, the Antichrist. That's a doctor.
Now, you guys are well aware of Trump's post depicting himself as Jesus, but I'm not here actually to talk about that.
So, yeah. And that's the hypocrisy, right? And so that's what gets me. It's okay. All these billionaires did their things with, little girls from all over the world. But, let's don't call that out. But, oh my gosh, show a picture like that and there's something wrong.
And I love it. I love it how shocked they are when another one turns out to be how we all knew they were, Oh no. Christy Noem's husband and all that. Never saw that coming.
You know who Steve Bannon is, right?
Yes.
So, of course, we know he was big time involved in getting this guy elected. Darth Vader behind the scenes, is what I like to say. But he also, went over to Italy and tried to start basically a religious overthrow of the government there. So he went to an old monastery. We're trying to train people to set up, this theocratic government in Italy, start a party or take over one of the right-wing parties so that they would do that. And again, just like here, he's a grifter. So after a while over there, they're like, hey, you have taken too much money, basically stolen money is what they realize, and we need to get you out of this country. So they booted his butt out. But here he is, if you didn't see, when he was at the Singapore World Economy Summit, apparently he pissed his pants and sat there and just talked away anyway.
God. For real? Like, actually?
That's for real. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God, I love it when things like that happen.
When, bad things happen to bad people.
Yeah. It couldn't have happened to a better guy. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, that's just classic, right?
Yeah. They are, wow, they are a motley crew, aren't they? They're, I don't know. I kind of run out of words because there's just, and why was he healing Jon Stewart in that picture first? Like,
right, yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what was the
Well, but hey, we should never say anything against Jesus, Donald Trump, because he wants us to know his faith is not a prop. Hey, all these guys, my faith is not a prop.
No. Those clips of him talking about the Bible, I really think about the people that fell for that, and it really scares me that they walk amongst us.
Yeah, well, it just saddens me that so many otherwise good, good, well-meaning and good people, are sucked in.
I lost
really
a
hurts.
few good people in my life.
Well, another good person that is having to go on and leave the regime now and just going to go on, and work. She's decided to go work in the civilian sector. Is Trump Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer has resigned. She's under investigation for abusing her staff as well as retaliating against staffers who had accused her husband of repeated sexual assaults. And there's also word that she was having an affair with one of her security personnel. So
no.
Yeah. But she is a good follower of Christ, though.
Yeah.
So,
I bet you could name somebody in the Bible.
So she's out as of today. That's number 3. You notice they're all women for the most part, though, right?
Yeah. Women that follow Trump are just, I don't know, they're a special breed. I mean, imagine voting to have your own rights taken away.
Well, it happened, right? So here's what's happening in D.C. right now. Some vets are actually So I guess, that's all done in the name of Christ's love also, arresting those disabled vets and their families.
Yeah.
I'm
As
sure.
long as they're getting those dangerous people off the streets, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another person that I follow, even though he's quite a bit more right wing than me, is Valhalla. Apparently, he's even gotten DJT's attention. Total loser and so-called Green Beret. Valhalla VFT is not MAGA. He just doesn't get it. He wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon, which I will never let happen. He's not like Lindsey Graham, who was an America First patriot. He thinks he's smart, but he's low IQ, just like another failed Green Beret, Joe Kent. Everyone knows it, even their families. Everyone knows Green Berets are budget Navy SEALs, not real war heroes like Rob O'Neill. The only one worth a damn to American war hero Tim Kennedy, who is MAGA. He gets it. Tim Kennedy, just if you didn't know, has gotten caught lying about so many of his military exploits, awards, and medals and everything else. And yet, Trump still likes him because Tim Kennedy will still, basically get down and kiss it.
I was about to say.
His podcast is a failing, unlike America First patriot Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, of course.
Why does everybody he doesn't like low IQ?
Yeah. Pathetic. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah. I don't think he can spell low IQ.
Well, as Valhalla says, I guess nobody is safe from Donnie's wrath. Sad. The fact that you can't tell is a real beef or not shows how insane he is. Or if this is real or not, he says, not in that beef. So, yeah, just gotta love it. Again, here's more of the what's happening. So that's USA Today reporting on it. Nearly 120 arrested.
Jesus.
But I guess they're not patriots.
No, they don't get it. Oh God, I don't know. I feel like I live in an alternate universe. I don't know how this is real.
So, yeah. Did I have that one on there? Could you hear it, or was I just showing a blank screen?
I didn't hear anything.
I am so sorry.
I was wondering.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure the audience was wondering too. All right. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I didn't catch that one for you.
Yeah. It's all right.
Sorry.
Well, I guess if I wasn't live, I could could have edited that. Here's what I was reading from earlier about Valhalla VFT, reading straight off where DJT was attacking Valhalla VFT. You can see it there.
Yeah.
And then here again was what I was describing, not realizing no one was seeing it.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Was that those zip ties around her hands?
Yep.
In a wheelchair.
Yep.
You better
But
watch
again,
out.
like I said, I'm sure. Yeah. couldn't go arrest actual criminals. So that's what's going on. You know, at the
Not
same
the
time that we've
wheelchair.
lost, in a wheelchair and people in canes. Yeah. So again,
Well.
Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remers resigned, and there was a lot of stuff going on there.
They're just dropping like flies.
Yep. Have there been any men though that he's kicked out yet this time around? I don't think so. We got Bondi's out, Kristi Noem's out, Lori Chavez de Remers out. So
Yeah.
Yep. So
I think he prefers men anyway, in more ways than one.
Yeah, we're thinking that's quite possibly it.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't seem real, pro woman.
Yeah, you seem to really like Lindsey Graham in that post there we were talking about.
Didn't Lindsey Graham go to Disneyland or something?
And had the bubble blower, and all by himself, blowing bubbles with the bubble machine.
Little Mermaid one?
Yeah. So Yale has lost. Oh, absolutely. If you look here, Yale loses its longtime #1 spot on the latest U.S. law school ranking, and apparently a lot of that's due to Vance. They think is some of it, but yeah. All right.
Awful can be linked to the White House.
So just back to what really would, if we want to look at the Sermon on the Mount, feed the orphans and the widows, or take care of the orphans and the widows, the meek shall inherit the earth. None of those things do I see in any of the images, we've shown so far of the administration. And yet I don't hear that preached by preacher Whiskey Pete Keg's Breath, or Captain Pete, as I also call him. I really wish that Captain Bone Spurs could quote some of the Sermon on the Mount, but
not Captain Bone Spurs. I'm done. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna play this a little bit more about Thomas Jefferson. Then I want you to talk to us about some of your art and how we can save animals locally with you. Like I say, my service dog, he's a rescue from Hardin County, shelter. We've got 2 Chihuahuas that are rescued. Got a beagle who rescued from Lexington a few years back. So let's get a little bit more of Jefferson's idea of what we're talking about, and then let you take us out. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Am I supposed to be telling you it's not playing?
Thank you. There we go again.
We live and learn.
Live and learn. I just gotta, not supposed to have you sitting in silence.
Well,
back again. All right. Yeah. So back to what was Jefferson's real thoughts on the way we should be doing it.
Critical of Christian institutions, particularly the clergy, he argued that true Christianity was primitive, meaning that it involved only the teachings of Jesus before any sort of church institution emerged. Jefferson believed that along with the gospel writers and Paul, the clergy had corrupted these teachings. Some historians thus call him a primitivist Christian, someone who views themselves as excavating an original Christianity before any Bible, before any Christian institution, and before any Christian doctrines. Jefferson's opposition to religious authorities came into play in his advocacy for religious freedom and the disestablishment of state religions, the process by which a state ends official support and recognition of a religious institution. Before the American Revolution, most of the original colonies used taxes to support religious institutions, and several had established state churches. And even after the Revolution, most state constitutions of the time even required public officials to profess being a Christian or believe in God in order to hold office. Jefferson stridently opposed this and often leveled his criticism against the clergy themselves. When Connecticut eliminated the privileged status of congregational churches in the state, Jefferson celebrated that this den of the priesthood is at length broken up, and that a Protestant popedom is no longer to disgrace the American history and character. So, in his own words, he was a follower of Jesus, and officially he was a member of the Anglican Church and later the Episcopal Church. But many Christians, both then and now, would not call him a fellow Christian for his rejection of core tenets of Orthodox Christian teachings, like the inspiration of the Bible, the Trinity, the resurrection of Jesus, and the divinity of Jesus. Above all, Jefferson's religious views were influenced by 18th century Enlightenment thinking. He believed that all truths could be ascertained with reason alone, declaring our reason at last must ultimately decide, as it is the only oracle which God has given us to determine between what really comes from him and the phantasms of a disordered or deluded imagination.
So I really like that. That's kind of where I thought I would leave it. I have one of my favorite great uncles was from born in Vine Grove, and somewhere in his early childhood, because his dad was a doctor there. This is, turn of the 20th century, early 1900s, back when doctors here didn't make much money at all, because they're often paid just with chickens, so they'd have to go home and, have the wife, kill and dress. My grandfather was a country doctor, and that's what in Eastern Kentucky, and that's what, he was my grandma was warned when she married him because she was from Indiana. It's like, hey, don't expect a rich doctor out here,
Yeah.
But this uncle, he was sent from Vine Grove over to family in Campbellsville. He grew up on a farm there with his aunts. I guess they were spinsters, and he became a Methodist preacher. He was an amazing character, always full of jokes. He could give me the best ribbings of anybody. Wore a hearing aid, so we had, he talked pretty loud, but very good natured, never any fire and brimstone, type stuff from him. But my mom, for some reason, even though my grandparents weren't all like that, she got caught up in I don't know what to call it. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but she got caught up in fundamentalism. Let's just say that.
Right.
So she was talking with my uncle one day, and she goes, "But the Bible says," and he's like, "Sandra, but what does your brain say?"
Yeah.
God gave you that too, and that's very important. The two can't contradict each other. You have to also use your brain, and that's actually.
But they don't like. I think the problem is they don't want to, and it's easier if you just believe all these words.
Oh, it is.
And there's a map for me, and I don't have to think for myself.
Well, it's so much easier if you let someone else do the thinking for you, But that's what my uncle was, encouraging her not to do. And he wasn't that type of preacher like, oh, you got to do what I say because I say it. That's why I joined. We're talking, in that video, they're talking about the Episcopal Church. I joined that in college because that was one of the things they talk about. They're like, hey, there's three legs to this three-legged stool of our beliefs. One is the Bible. That's one leg. The other is liturgy. That's like the Book of Common Prayer and such, And then the other is your brain, your intellect. You can't have a stool stand up without falling over if you don't have those three legs together. So that's when I'm like, okay, if I can use my brain, I'll still, take part in this thing, And so I allow everybody from atheists to agnostics to, full-time, just traditional believers in. That's what your brain says,
Yeah.
Hey, we got some other priests with a shout out here real quick. We got Copycats. on here. She says, hey, y'all, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yes, thank you so much for remembering that, reminding everybody. Tom's on here, says that his, is it grandfather, Tom? Let's see. Paternal grandfather, yep, taught at William and Mary. That's where it was talking about, Thomas Jefferson going, the Harvard of the South. I've seen the campus before. It's beautiful, beautiful spot there in Williams. Let's see. So, yeah, they're talking about their veterans being arrested for protest, how despicable that is. Tom says, I type his initials. It's reflexively IDJT. Pronounced idiot.
Idiot. Oh, God. I haven't heard
We got Susan Jones on here. Jefferson, the founders, knew that a state-sanctioned religion would be inherently corrupt. Yeah, definitely, Susan. And as the Anglican Church was in England, creating cover for Henry Tudor to divorce, which the Catholic Church had refused him. Yeah, that and, when my ancestors came to Kentucky, they came to Appalachia and to this area because they weren't allowed to practice their religion, which was a form of Presbyterianism, and it went on to become, Baptist. But they, if you were on the East Coast when it was originally set up, so like the area that we're talking about, Jefferson being in, if you weren't Anglican, you couldn't be a magistrate, you couldn't be a governor, you couldn't hold any office. You couldn't be dog catcher if you weren't. And so the Scots Irish, they weren't down with that. They're like, hey, no, we're going to do it our way. Well, we've seen how that went over there in the old country. So the establishment in the East Coast was like, all right, well, I'll tell you what, you guys can take your hillbilly butt over to Appalachia. We need someone to protect us from these Indians that keep coming through here, and you like to live like them anyway. Yeah, and that's really what happened. So that's how Daniel Boone them came through, and the folks that came through, they were against the established doctrine. So to think that we should go backwards, and let someone decide for each of us what it is that we should believe, besides believing in life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I mean, it's really hard to pull it down much more than that.
We've gone backwards in so many ways.
Absolutely. Susan Jones is on here and still and says, hey, shameful that veterans are treated this way. They know what sacrifice is. And one of my favorite posters got the ghost of John Brown. Love my rescues, including one Memphis street dog and one Memphis street cat. Well, I can't think of a better way to segue back to you. Tell us all about it.
All right. So, first of all, I would like to explain why I look like this. Well, I figured I've never done anything like this, and so I might as well show up as what I'm talking about. So this is actually representative of November. I took in a stray cat, and then poor boy, there was a post about him. Someone made, she was heartbroken because her neighbor downstairs had heartlessly thrown out this poor cat, and it was getting cold. So the night it snowed the first time, I saw the post, and I didn't have room, but I took him in, and I had all these people come out and just really support me and donated litter and everything. And then 2 weeks later, my cat I had for 4 years suddenly became ill and passed away. And then 6 days later, on the day before Thanksgiving, the cat I had brought in, he passed in my arms. So apparently he had been unwell. And my cat that passed, that I had for 4 years, her name was Lily. And she looked like a fairy. She was this dainty little thing. And so I am the fairy Lily.
All right.
So I'm a lily and I'm a fairy. So it's kind of representative of her. I imagine if she's in kitty heaven, that she's probably got her wings. So this is for her. And, I really didn't, I've only been doing this kind of stuff for a few years, and I don't know why. I joke that I may have been abducted by aliens, or some take a more spiritual spin with it, some sort of enlightenment or whatever. But I was actually brought up in West Texas, Southern Baptist.
Okay.
So I was not programmed well. And I was taught that red nail polish was for streetwalkers type thing. So I really get what we're talking about here. And they were the worst people on earth. And it took me a long time to deprogram that person they had turned me into. And it wasn't until I realized that was the problem, and I took a long, hard look at my life and started making changes. And then I actually had hair down to my waist until I was 40. And then it just didn't even look like me anymore. So I started cutting my hair, and I started really living without, and I always felt what they believed. I call it copy and paste beliefs,
Oh, yeah.
And so I always felt it, though. You're saying your brain, "What's up, baby? Hi." I had to take a lot of that because I just believed it, because I didn't know what I believed. I did know there was something in me that felt wrong. And so I finally, got to the point where I was proud of the person I saw in the mirror. And then I've always felt like I was meant to do something bigger than just 9 to 5, or in my case, whatever they schedule me for. And I feel like I'm at a point, I'll be 50 in October, and I'm at the point where I need to be doing something that feeds my soul as much as it feeds my belly. And over the years, I just started having ideas, and then they just suddenly wouldn't stop. And I'm like, okay, well, I've never done anything like this, but let me try this. And then I was like, oh, I might be good at it. And then 40,000 half-finished projects later, I come up with all these weird ideas, and I don't know where they come from. And I know I love art now because it's helped me get through the last few years have probably been the darkest I've had in a long time, and art really has gotten me through it, and my animals as well. So I thought, what better way to build a platform and resources to save animals than with art, and whatever that art means to me. It's not just costume stuff. I paint sometimes. I'm not great. I do furniture, just whatever feels like, whatever I feel inspired to do. I don't have a specific canvas I need to use, and so I didn't even really do it on purpose, I don't think, with the animals. I knew I loved them, and I knew I loved them in a way that I tell them probably isn't normal. But I'm on this app called Nextdoor on you know what it is?
Yeah.
And I found myself getting messages a lot if I could help rehome this, that, or the other. And next thing I know, I'm good at it. So I started developing more of a community for animal lovers on there. And that's why when that happened with my cats in November, so many people came out. They did so much for me. They paid for vet bills. They paid for the ashes of my babies. They sent me food for me. I lost a month of work over it. I was just so devastated. So, that being said, I realize I'm good at saving animals. And it's not that I don't think dogs and cats need to be rescued. And it's not that I'm not going to continue to do things on a small scale, but I'm starting to see that the status quo just isn't really cutting it. and I'd like to aim as high as I can. I would love to change laws. I consider myself a cat lady, but I have this really soft spot for pit bulls and what they're, I feel like people are proving a point with them to their demise. Oh, they're just like other dogs, and they're not. That doesn't make them bad. I feel like people just need to know what they're in for, and it's not always just how they're raised. I've seen things go bad with pits that have never known a bad day in their life. So I would love to open a rehab facility for those dogs one day. I would love to hire professional trainers to, help with aggression. I think there's a mental health aspect that could be addressed with those dogs. I don't think people necessarily go to mental health for their animals because mostly they don't think about it, or they think it's too expensive, and it's not. It's ridiculously cheap. So that's kind of, my dreams in a nutshell. I feel like it's time for me to, I left a lot of bad in the, the trail to deprogramming person that I was purely for need of survival,
Yeah.
And I feel like I owe it to the world, and animals is what seems to be pulling at my heart.
Well, I'd say my original, if you want to call it deprogramming, came from number one, getting back in touch with my grandparents. My mom's parents were nothing like that judgmental, harsh, way of looking at the world at all. And neither was my real dad. But my real dad got into AA after I went to boot camp. And I didn't grow up with him, but I went and reunited with him just a little bit before I went to boot camp, But seeing the world through the military, then, like I said, going to Belmont University and being open to seeing, oh man, I can still have a spiritual view, recognize that Jesus was about love, not about, damnation. And that really freed me. And then, like I said, then I joined the Episcopal Church. But since then, I found out that my grandfather, his dad was a primitive Universalist, Primitive Baptist Universalist, and they were kicked out of the regular Primitive Baptist Church because they believed that there is no hell in the afterlife. It's only here on earth. And that
I've heard that.
Everyone is saved and everyone's going to heaven, and that just we should be here. And that sounds a lot like what we're hearing that Jefferson, really believed.
Yeah.
And that just the message should be how to free each other, how to give each other life, liberty, and that pursuit of happiness, So that's my real thing. And I got custody of my niece, my wife and I did, not long after I retired from the Navy, and I had gone out to work for the VA in Montana. And she was flown from Kentucky to Montana and got off the plane. She'd been living with Mennonites for a year or two in Eastern Kentucky. And she looked just like, she was a character off the set of, what was the old show? Little House on the Prairie.
Oh my
right?
God.
Had the bonnet, long homemade dress. Like you're saying, anything red was evil. Oh, that person's driving that red car.
What is it about red?
They're not a real Christian. Yeah. So I'm like, oh man, because that's how, my stepdad from Texas, that Texas mentality hurt me a lot when my mom went down there and married into it, brought us into it. But, so I'm like, all right, I can't see this happen to another generation, because that's not the way my grandparents were. So I immediately went and got her a haircut, like you're talking about. I got her some jeans, and played her some Dua Lipa and tried to couple other, pop stars that she was into big time, and has been since. And so now, funny thing is, after buying her those pants, there's been a couple times I've tried to give her a dress, like, hey, it's Easter, let's go get an Easter dress. No, horrible, just like no, wasted money buying them. Yeah, recently this last Easter was the first time she's worn a dress in 8 years now. She came to us when she was 6. She's 14. Yeah. So that just, yeah. And that wasn't me. That wasn't me forcing it. Nothing. Just, I guess she and my wife were talking, and she was ready. She had one that she had, gotten somewhere. Yeah. So, but that's just all about, like I said, she deprogrammed herself, and there was no going back. Or with a little nudge from me, and then she was all over it. But yeah, it's amazing to watch people, be able to find their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And hopefully you can help, because this pup here, like I say, is a rescue. My wife brought in, and he's just, first, he was her dog, and then he decided, oh, he's mine too. So
How old
summertime. He's about 2 or 3 maybe now, 2 or 3. And just amazing. But my service dog is a big guy. Well, I'll show you a little funny. We'll take a little break here, doggy break. The service dog.
He said, talk to the booty.
So when my wife brought the Chihuahua, she was terrified that Scout, the big guy, was gonna, eat him. And no, he attacks Scout all the time, and Scout just be like, put his mouth over him, not by him, just like, hey, remember, he'll roll it. This little guy will roll over, okay, uncle. And then later he'll just be back like he was there, throwing himself into Scout's mouth. So
I love big dogs.
I come home, and any of the stressful memories from combat or any of the tough things at work, I just sit down with them and they melt away. And if I get a little up and holler at, this guy runs away, and they're like, oh man, I did wrong, didn't I? It calms me down. I didn't mean for you to run away. So yeah, that's what they do. Like to see you be successful in this dream and endeavor, and make it, like, dream big or go home, and let's make it happen.
I know, it's one life.
If you build it, they will come, right?
One life.
So, and yeah, my deal is, if I am able to get elected magistrate here in District 3, I just want to see this place that's been part of my DNA since Kentucky was started. Like I said, Daniel Boone and Squire Boone. One of my ancestors' last name is Freeman, probably related to the Freeman. That Freeman, was a long hunter that Freeman Lake's named after.
Yeah.
And I want to see that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that they were searching for, that still be something that, our kids can have here in this county and the state, and I think that we're in danger of losing it all because we are convinced that, the billionaires know how to do business better than us. And I don't think so. I'd rather go down to, Running Souls to buy my shoes, buy them from a veteran there, go to, Bird Whistle Books, buy my books there from someone that's from here and there's family that invested here, and then get some used records right next door, another veteran-owned shop. So that's what I think this county needs more of. And we're not going to do that if we are just out for helping the billionaires, So, all right. Hopefully we can get you back here again. I think the first time we met up, you were dressed as Lady Liberty, right? Statue of Liberty.
No, I was feeling blue.
Oh, feeling blue. That's feeling blue. That's right. Yeah. So that was a cool outfit too.
Thank you.
And hopefully, we can talk more about what we need to do to support places like, our shelter, and get, there's just some great animals there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where I
Adopt,
went
don't shop.
rescue my, yeah, that's it. I mean, I've had as a child, a purebred, hunting dog once or twice, and yeah, they've got their place. I love them, but there's plenty of them in the shelter too,
But
that need
yeah,
to be
that's what I was
rescued.
gonna say.
People don't realize that.
No, they have breed specific shelters.
Yeah, yeah,
They
oh yeah,
have
yeah. And when I
because they end up
rescued 2 beagles, and I rescued them from Beagle Rescues. Actually 3
Yeah.
beagles. Yeah.
Beagles are
So,
so cool.
oh yeah,
I love beagles.
yeah, I did too. I just love. Well, I love sweet dogs and sweet people. So
Do they
just me.
howl? Do they have that beagle howl when they bark?
They can, especially like on the trail. My first service dog was one that I rescued from Beagle Rescue, and yeah, she could be vocal, but not, it wasn't constant like some of them might be.
Like mine,
Yeah.
my beagle in her. One of them's part beagle. They're vocal. They're way vocal. You heard that at the beginning.
Oh yeah. And we got Tom back on here commenting. He said, I'm not able to adopt any more dogs these days, but I toss a shekel to Basset Rescue of Kentuckiana from time to time and have done some transports for them. Well, I think what Tom means is he's not able to because he already rescued 2.
Yeah.
Got 2.
Yeah, I think so too.
Bassets. Yeah, he's got sweet pups. And yeah,
I love bassets. My neighbor has a basset.
they are characters, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But these Chihuahuas, we got 2 Chihuahuas, and they're just constant. Especially this guy, he's a jokester, aren't you, buddy? You're just constantly doing jokes, right? Yeah.
He looks like a jokester.
So, oh yeah,
What's his
can't.
name?
This is Casper.
Hi, Casper.
Yeah, the grandson named him. He said he was the friendly ghost. Now I've said that he should be called. Let's see, a couple other names. One of them, he thinks that he's Scout. Yeah, Scout loves the water. Anytime we go on a walk, Scout has to get any puddle, lake, river, stream. Well, this guy decided to do the same thing. I've never seen a Chihuahua that loves water, but because Scout does, he does. So yeah, they make me crack up. Yeah, and Tom saying his Bassets are Wilbur and Orville, and yes, they are rightly named. He named after
That's cute.
Wilbur and Orville, right? Yeah.
I don't think my dogs really know what their names are anymore. I think they both think they have both names because I get them. I get my kids' names wrong all the time. I'm like, Gia, Zilla, whatever your name is, whatever.
As long as they come to supper, right?
For real.
All right. Well, I appreciate, like I said, you coming on, and
thanks for having me. It was fun. Once I got coffee, took me a minute.
Yeah.
But it was great.
And I just want to remember everyone, hey, that we're just lucky to be living here in this country, with the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But the only way we can keep it is if we live up to Kentucky's motto, which is united we stand, divided we fall. And if we let petty things like whose religion is right or not, and we forget that it's all about loving our neighbor as ourselves, that's the main thing it's about, so we can boil it all down to, then we're probably not going to stay united if we keep on fighting over this kind of stuff. And it's not about, left or right anymore. Not even about Democrat or Republican anymore. It's about, are we going to stand up against the billionaire class, against the pedophile class, and actually have justice for all of us, have an economy that works for all of us. They keep saying that those billionaires are going to let it trickle down, but it's just been like piss dribbling down their leg after they go to the urinal, and we're supposed to lap it up. So let's stop that. We've got a midterm coming up. That's one of the most important we've ever had, because we need to get fighters for us into office. Now, I don't have a midterm opponent, so I'm on the ticket already. You can vote for me in November, but let's take real serious. Remember, next month is primary time. So let's do it. Let's stay united, and Let's remember everyone deployed overseas tonight, and bless your corazón, which is Espanol for heart. Have a great rest of the week. Hopefully it started off well, and hopefully you can finish it just as well or even better than it starts.